What is up, my cutouts? Cardboard Ninja here, coming at you with the planned balance changes from the Steel Champions update. So, looks like there's going to be a new update to Crossout, and here's what's going to end up happening. They say, as always, we continue to share balance changes planned for the upcoming update. This is going to change a lot of stuff. Kicking things off first with the borer. The durability is reduced from 231 to 195. For those of us who are unfamiliar or who do remember, the borer's durability was reduced from like 400 something down to 231, and now down from 231 to 195. Their reason is that the borer is an over effective melee weapon for 4,000 to 6,000 power score, which this part is intended. They're trying to make it easier to destroy. So here's the deal. They keep nerfing the borer, trying to make it easier to strip or to be blown off when it hits a high explosive part in someone's build. But in reality, the reason why it's so strong, and I've played at 4K, 5K recently in order to find out why, it's because no one has, like, new players just simply don't have access to bumpers. That's it. The reason why the borer drops off so hard at around 6K is because players at 6K have obtained bumpers. And those bumpers cover their car. And so the borer will never, ever, ever penetrate any of those bumpers at all. Get one train plow, and you can have an infinite number of borers, and you will never get through that train plow. Because again, it only does 35 damage a tick, and they take 90% reduced collision damage, so 3.5 damage a second. So that's the fix, right? The fix is more bumpers, to be honest. Getting more bumpers earlier in the game would easily counter the borer. Another fix that they could do, instead of dealing with the hit points, make the damage ramp up. So it's give the borer a perk. I know that sounds silly considering it's a rare, but have its base damage start off low and have it actually start spinning up to its damage. That would fix that instead of just simply trying to make it easier to shoot off. Because in reality, the reason why this isn't going to solve the problem is because borers are usually placed very low on the ramming vehicle. And so players aren't going to be able to shoot down at it. The only thing that will take this out is gas. So what they're doing is they're kind of making them lances. A player will be able to ram into someone and probably get one kill, but if that person was smuggling fuel, then their borers will be blown off, so they'll only be able to kill one guy instead of two. Hence the reason why 195 is the selected durability. Special parts, the median, for those of us who do not remember, the median is a sniper cannon, infinite ammunition. It is the lowest tier crossbow-esque sniper weapon in the game. After that, of course, comes the spike, and after that comes the toadfish, and then scorpion. The changes they're proposing are the damage is going to be increased by 12.5%. Right now, it does 160 damage. If I'm correct, the damage will do 180 after that. That's a good change because the median was created before the durability increase to all of the heavier parts, so it's not performing where it should necessarily against those parts, such as the APC wall parts and things like that from the Steppenwolf faction. The durability has been increased from 189 to 228. That's a pretty substantial increase. Something like 30 hit points. That's not bad. Minimum spread in motion reduced by 33%. All right. So one of the things that I said in my weapon tier list is, and this actually helped keep the median down, is that it's not a sniper weapon because you can't use it on hovers. It's a shotgun on a hover, which makes it bad. This fixes that. 33% spread reduction while in motion, i.e. you can now use this on a hover. Combine this with the Torero on a hover, and you've got yourself a wombo of a combo. Hover Torero median may be a thing, actually. Maximum spread in motion reduced by 25%. Both adjustments to spread increase the weapon's accuracy, they say, obviously. So it becomes a sniper weapon. It's doing what all of the other sniper weapons do. Finally. Good. Their comment is because of the weapon's insufficient effectiveness, we increase its accuracy and the damage it inflicts. Yeah, that'll do it. These changes will help players in using the weapon in the ways it was originally designed for, which is precise destruction of any parts. And its durability increase will slightly improve the weapon's survivability in battle. Yeah, this is actually a huge change for the median. Like, huge change. That may actually be enough to bring it up a tier, because that can make it somewhat competitive with the spike. The reason why being the spike is an ammunition weapon, and you actually have to bring an ammo crate, which is a vulnerability on your build, versus the median, which you wouldn't. That's actually really interesting. The KA1 Discharger, now the module boosts reloading by 15% instead of 10%. The reason is, in comparison to the KA2 Flywheel, the KA1 Discharger is used far less often. Increasing the reloading boost bonus should increase its appeal to players. No, that is incorrect. There is not one single build. Yeah, I'll detail the KA2 Flywheel's nerf up ahead. there's no build that I'm not going to use the KA2 Flywheel over the KA1 Discharger ever. There's no reason. So for those of us who do not remember Crossout back in its infancy, or not even infancy, but a few, maybe a year or so ago, the perk of the KA1 Discharger was stripped from the Hot Red engine, and the perk of the KA2 Flywheel was stripped from the Colossus engine. The KA1 Discharger's perk came from an engine that cost 0 energy. None. It took no energy to mount onto your build. And the KA2 Flywheel's perk cost 1 energy because the Colossus cost 1 energy. So the Flywheel perk was put on, the perk of the Colossus was put onto the Flywheel, and the energy cost was 1. The perk of the Hot Red was put on the KA1 Discharger, and the energy cost was increased from 0 to 1. This is not the correct fix. This is simply not the correct fix. No one wants the 15% reload instead of 20%. What they want is 10% reload for free. The KA1 Discharger should boost reload by 10%, and it should cost no energy. That's the fix. This fix, not a fix. Epic perks. Goliath. Maximum speed increase from 45 to 55. That is a 10 kilometers an hour increase of Goliath tracks. Tank tracks, maximum speed from 55 to 60. That's a 5 kph. Armored track from 60 to 65. Their comment is, as for the tracks, despite their relatively high durability, their slowness was too noticeable and not sufficiently compensated by other parameters. Believe it or not, still not. This is still not compensated enough. In all honesty, tracks, the heavier tracks in the game are non-viable, even with these changes to speed. 65 kph is fun, but that's a speed cap. That means that you could now, technically, with the armored track, get to 75 kph using the Golden Eagle. I would like to see that play out, but, I mean, right now we have it cap out at 70 anyway. 75 isn't going to change much. Tank track, 60, not going to change much. Goliath is going to be 65 with the Golden Eagle. I mean, right now, though, the sheer fact that they're changing the maximum speed from 45 to 55 means that they're on the Goliath tracks is basically they're giving it the Golden Eagle perk for free plus the Golden Eagle perk. That's a 20 kilometers an hour difference from base, and it's still not enough. Crossout is a very fast game. This will not change tracks enough to make them relevant, but it's a good change nevertheless. KA2 Flywheel, the mass is reduced from 384 to 306 kilograms, and the power score is increased from 275 to 400. Long story short, they're doing the same thing to the Discharger that they did to the RN Seal. It is the best hardware for certain weapons, and the hardware in this case being reloading modules or reloading weapons. So if you have cannons or whatever, this is the best. So instead of 275, it's going to 400, and it doesn't matter. You're still going to use it. The reduction in mass is great. That's nearly 80 kilograms being returned to every build that uses the Flywheel. That is very awesome. I think everyone who has their KA2 Flywheel mass fused is just getting an additional bonus. The Estrella, the weapon that strips itself. The weapon now deals 40 damage to mounted parts when firing with overload instead of 50 from earlier. That's not bad. That's a 20% self-damage reduction. The overloaded shot now deals 60% more damage instead of 50% from earlier. I'd have to test this to find out if the partially overloaded shot is also increased. Their comment is, now using the weapons perk allows the owner of the Estrella to deal more damage to enemies and less to their own armored car. This weapon is ass. I'm sorry, the Estrella's... Oh my god. Just, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah. That's ass. It's still just not a good weapon, because it still strips itself. Not a very good perk. The bonus damage shouldn't be what you should overcharge it for. In all honesty, the fix to the Estrella should be increase the damage of the Estrella by a certain amount. Something like, I don't know, 30%. Remove the overload from the weapon entirely. As in overload damage. So now the damage is normalized at a midway point. So why would you want to do that? Give it a perk that when you overload it, it hits your opponent and debuffs them in some sort of way. I don't know, locks their barrels, pings them on the minimap, something. That way, or even drains their energy. That'd be interesting. Like, it's the equivalent of giving them -2 energy to their build if you hit them with 2. So if you hit them with 1, it's the equivalent of taking 1 energy off their build. If you hit them with 2, it's the equivalent of taking 2 energy off their build for like a second. That would disable a weapon That would be amazing. But now the Astreus is still just silly. The Varan. This is the crossbow that came with the Sabbath Wheel. Damage increased by 23%. That's very interesting. Damage bonus from the perk is now 10% instead of 20%. Projectile speed increased by 43%. The flight speed bonus from the perk is now 15%, down from 35%. Projectile impulse increased by 60%, so it's now being treated like an actual crossbow and it can actually knock someone over. Impulse bonus from the perk is now 20%, which is up from 50% earlier. The time required to fire a shot after a charge received a perk bonus is now 1 second instead of 0.75 seconds. Okay, so to summarize all those changes, they're front-loading the weapon. Stacking the perk, getting the perk up and running, all that stuff apparently not working very well. They're extending the duration that you can not fire the weapon to maintain its actual perk. And they're basically front-loading the weapon. They're making it so the first few shots aren't completely useless to begin with. Their comment is rebalancing the base stats and the perk makes the crossbow less dependent on its perk and makes it easier to use. The effectiveness of the crossbow is currently sufficient, but the weapon remains not very popular just because of the complexity of the perk. The following edits haven't changed the maximum effectiveness of the weapon because its damage, projectile speed, and impulse combined with 3 bonuses from the perk remain the same, and a small bonus to the time required to make enhanced shot will make it easier to use the weapon's perk. Yeah, so basically the maximum stays exactly the same, but the minimum has been increased. They're making it so minimally the weapon isn't as bad as it is right now. This is a very minor buff, honestly. They're tightening up the variance on the weapon on the variance on the Varan. I didn't give this a very high rating, and I still don't. The bonus damage is going to be nice, but in reality, it's just another sniper weapon that is outperformed by other sniper weapons. But we'll see. The Buggy Wheel and Buggy Wheel ST, the power score is reduced from 250 to 150, and the mass is reduced from 116 to 80. Changes are aimed at increasing the efficiency and popularity of the wheels compared to other epic movement parts. Interesting. For those of us who don't know, the Buggy Wheel is phenomenal. In general, it is just a great wheel. It's a small wheel, but the Buggy Wheel allows you to get speed cap on parts that are based on speed faster. This includes, but is not limited to, the lance and the oppressor. It's a great wheel. It's a great wheel. Just got better. Power score reduction, mass reduction. Great, good buff. Trombone. Heating from a single rocket reduced from 45% to 30%, and explosion radius reduced by 25%. Their comment is the effectiveness of the trombone is too damn high, which makes the rocket launcher an ultimate choice as a weapon for heating up parts. The changes will adjust its relative to other. The changes will adjust its effectiveness relative to other similar weapons. Yeah, it will adjust its effectiveness, but it's still the best. Look, the fix to the trombone is not this. They can do whatever they want with their heating from rockets and explosion radius. The fix to the trombone is make it so you need a lock to fire it and not miss. Right now, the trombone is the only fire and forget weapon in the entire game. You can spam the trombone key, and you will never waste ammunition, ever. This is not true of the Pyre. This is not true of the Hurricane. This is not true of any other weapon in the entire game. You can launch your weapon into the wall with those locking weapons. Trombone is a locking weapon that cannot fire without a lock, making the trombone overpowered in that regard. That's the fix. This is neither here nor there. The Miller. Ooh, I made a video about the Miller. Damage dealt by explosive projectile increased by 29%. The base damage, let me do the math for you right now. It does 83 damage. We're going to multiply that by 1.29. It's going to do 107 damage. 107.07. Standard projectile damage reduced by 15%. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, no. Oh, no. That is... Ooh. Their comment, the power of the Miller is becoming more and more apparent in battles. With these changes, we would like to make the weapon more dependent on precise shooting and using its perk. Oh, my goodness. All right. So... I have 3 Millers right now, 4 Millers. 2 Millers are the fused from the battle pass, and 2 of them are going to be used to create the Heather upcoming. But one of the things is that non-fused millers aren't nearly as good as fused millers. Clearly, that's supposed to be the case. And I think they might be pulling that data from the fused millers and not the unfused millers. Ultimately, I didn't put the miller onto my weapon tier list yet, and I'm glad I didn't, because I was going to put it on the tier list above the Reaper. And it is. This is a B tier weapon. It's very effective at its power scores. And the reason why is because of the amount of energy, not energy, but the power score cost of the miller is nearly 1/2 of that of the Reaper, and it offers 2/3 to 3/4 of the damage of the Reaper. But it's at such a dramatic power score reduction that you can actually bring the miller into lower power scores and do just fine. The damage is quite good. Damage per shot of the miller is identical to that of the Reaper. Its fire rate, however, is only 2/3 that of the Reaper, which this is the reason why the Reaper outdamages the miller over time. I don't like this change, to be honest. This more heavily stacks landing all of your shots, which on the miller is really already difficult enough. Miller has a decent time in the power scores it can reach, but I don't think this is a good change. I genuinely don't think that this change is needed at all. The bonus damage on the explosive projectile is it is the 16th shot that hits in a row. 16th consecutive shot in a row. But in exchange, you're losing 15% damage on 15 shots to get that 29% shot. This is a massive damage nerf. You make no mistake. Huge damage nerf. Remember, you're losing 15% damage over the course of burning someone down to try and land this shot. And if you miss that shot, which happens all the time, this is just a pure nerf. Interesting. Prometheus 5. Damage increased by 15%. No comment even added. They're just like, more damage. All right, fair enough. Plasma guns are in an okay spot and increasing their damage. I don't see the problem with that. They aren't overly meta at the moment. Phoenix durability increased yet again from 418 to 488. Excellent. Explosive bolt durability increased from 10 to 35. That's a huge change. The bolt now explodes after 3 seconds instead of 4 seconds. All right, cool. Comment, the effectiveness of the Prometheus, similar to the Phoenix, is currently too low and it does not correspond to the rarity of these weapons. For each of these weapons, we decide to implement exactly those changes that can bring them back into the game. That is not enough. The Phoenix change is not enough. That's not enough. Here's the reason why. The Phoenix is one of the only weapons in the game that has counterplay. Let's compare the Phoenix to any cannon. You line up your shot, you fire it over distance, you predict the motion of your opponent, and it hits your opponent. Every cannon in the game, you're rewarded immediately. Congratulations, you did it. You dealt damage immediately. They take that damage. It doesn't matter if they're slipping behind a wall. Doesn't matter. None of that matters. They've taken the damage. The Phoenix, exact same thing with a slower projectile. Harder to do. Now, if they take any damage from any allies, they're going to shoot that thing right off. And they're fine. Though now they require a concentrated effort to remove, and some random bullet won't remove it, which is good, that's still not good enough. You still have to land all of your shots under the waterline on builds with the Phoenix in order to get the chance at the Phoenix to explode. I don't think that's going to be enough, but it's a welcome buff nevertheless. It's not going to change its tier, but it's still a welcome buff. Legendary parts of the Mandrake, the minimum spread of shells has been significantly reduced. The spread now increases from minimum to maximum with each subsequent projectile in the burst. Fire puddle's radius increased by 10%, and time before a fire puddle disappears is increased by 2%. Chad, I'm wrong. Holy crap. So, one of the things that I said a long time ago, when the Emily was coming out, was that they were never going to buff the Mandrake. They were just going to let it obsolete, very similar to the ML200 legs. This is me being wrong. I'm just outright wrong. They're buffing it. They're buffing the Mandrake because it is entirely inferior to the Emily in every single possible way. There is presently, before this change, no reason to ever touch a Mandrake under any circumstances unless you're, crafting a relic. It's a terrible, terrible weapon. I would have to see how drastically the minimum spread of shells has been significantly reduced to identify whether or not the Mandrake buff is good enough to bring it out of D tier. But yeah, that's a good change. It sounds like a change. It sound because again they're not using any numbers. They're just saying significantly reduced. So what this would mean is for those of us who have ever fired the Mandrake, you know that you can fire all 5 shots at a stationary target while you're completely stationary, and you will miss all 5 and you will do no damage. This change intimates that that will no longer be the case. That if you fire upon a stationary target, you have a chance of actually hitting them. That's actually pretty cool. Larger fire puddles as well as longer fire puddles means that you can lock down an area. If you have 2 Mandrakes, you can now launch dual Mandrakes over an area and kind of lock down an area with fire. Though fire from the Mandrake has never been the reason why you've used the Mandrake, that's still pretty decent. I want to see how that plays out. Good change. Maybe it'll make it so people who have Mandrakes won't feel so screwed with the Emily. The Waltz. Rocket speed increased by 16%. Rocket speed upgrade now grants 15% bonus instead of 25% earlier. What? Oh, rocket speed fusion. Comment, without the rocket speed upgrade, the Waltz effectiveness was not sufficient for a weapon of legendary rarity. Please note, although the bonus from the upgrade was decreased, the upgraded versions still have a higher projectile speed than before, by 1% for those of us who don't do math very well. So, there you go. They're trying to make the base Waltz better, while not necessarily overly affecting the fused Waltz, if it's fused for projectile speed. Good change, I suppose. The Kami. I think that's the new cabin. I still don't have it. The tonnage has been increased from 46 to 47, so 100 more tonnage. Mass limits increased from 8,700 to 8,850, so 150 more kilograms there, and 3% more power. Comment, initially we decided not to amplify the cabin additionally, but to wait for the first statistics on use of the cabin in battles. Based on the results of the gathered data, we slightly improved the cabin's parameters so it matches the other legendary cabs and their performance. We assume that in future, the parameters of the cabin can be further improved with more data that's collected. Yeah, good luck. Master, it is planned to change the location of power nodes on the cabin. For those of us who do not know, I have a video on this, dissing the master cabin for over 25 minutes. And it comes down to a lot of things, but in reality, one of them is the location of those stupid nodes. So they're saying part of the nodes located on the sides will be moved to the front and rear of the cabin, as well as on its roof. Oh my. Oh my. That just might do it, chat. I don't know where on the roof those nodes are going to go, but it doesn't matter, to be honest. That might be enough to actually make the master cabin not the aster cabin it is. Especially with the Omamori being what it is, you can expect some really tall builds coming up. Like, so for example, if you place the Omamori flat on the back, what we would currently consider the back of the master cabin, and let's assume the power nodes on the top of the master cabin are close enough together, you could put like breakers on that. Think about it. Breakers on top, sitting atop an Omamori and the master cabin. So now you have breakers that can be repaired and take 50% damage. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You want to hear something even better? The Omamori could be attached to one of the power nodes on the master cabin, and therefore you can now repair the Omamori itself. Think about that. That might not be ass. Let's read their comment. In many respects, the insufficient effectiveness of the cabin, which was designed for the use of power nodes, was due to improper placement of these nodes in the model. Yup. Changing their position will add more options when assembling the vehicle and allow you to place parts used in conjunction with the cabin more conveniently. Yeah. No, that's it. The perk is bad. Like, the perk itself isn't bad. Sorry, my apologies. The perk isn't bad. The placement of the nodes makes the perk impossible to use. Again, I have a video about this. Blah, 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 blah. It's got a couple views. It doesn't matter. Yeah, this will fix it. That is the fix. The fix is moving the nodes. They just have to. Putting them on the front, sides, and the top of the build will be insane. Yeah, no, that will actually be good depending on where they put it. I will, of course, put an asterisk on that to make sure that they put them in decent spots. But if they get put in decent spots onto the cabin model, the master cabin could actually be useful. Like, straight up, no longer a joke. Not the worst legendary cabin in the game, right next to the that stupid train cabin whose name escapes me, machinist cabin. But yeah, no, interesting. All right, well, those are all the changes that are coming, and yeah, I look forward to seeing almost all of these. No, I actually look forward to seeing all of these. There's not a single change here that I think is bad, to be honest. Great. I can't wait for these planned balance changes for Steel Champions update. Hope you guys are looking forward to it too. Like, comment, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Peace.